All right. Mic check. I'm good. So I'm Max Duran. CWB Association Welding podcast. Podcast. Today we have a really cool guest. Welding podcast.
The show is about to begin.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the CWB Association podcast. This is a continuation of our fantastic special series that we have been doing with Skills Canada. Now, we are here in Winnipeg now for the beginning of what is the National Skills Conference. And this is the first guest that we have from on location here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I have Amiel Hernandez from Nunavut. How are you doing?
I'm good. Enjoying the nice warm weather here.
Have you been to Winnipeg before?
Yeah, numerous times.
Yeah. What used to bring you here?
Well, I used to live in Rankin Inlet, and that it's like a 2 and 3 hour flight from there. So medical travel and big family vacations. A really quick family vacation. So.
And when did you get in? Did you get in last night or today?
I got in last night.
Cool. And it's nice except for it's smoky.
Yeah, it's hazy because of
forest fires.
all the Uber drivers been telling me. Every Uber driver is like, if you notice, it's hazy. It's like, yeah.
Are you getting any of the wildfire smoke up in Nunavut?
No.
It's all blowing south into us.
Yeah, it's snowing there. It snowed today, so
Really?
yeah, it's
Really?
still snowing.
So when is nice time? When is like
Well, it was nice last week, and then this week it was like, joke's on you. We're back to winter. So usually this is a time that it does start because springtime. So like last weekend we had a cod derby, so people have been out and enjoying the warmish weather, and then they'll transition because the sea ice is still there, so it doesn't really melt till end of June. So
it sounds like you've been up there for a while now.
yeah, I moved to Nunavut when I was 9, so I've lived there since then. I even took nursing school in Iqaluit.
So let's go to the beginning. Where were you born? Where's your roots from?
Okay, so I'm originally from born in the Philippines, in Manila, and I lived there. Like my mom then migrated to Canada. So then, when I was 9 years old, and like this was like 2005 or something, and 2008, you
make it sound like so long ago. 2005.
I know.
I already had kids. Like
it feels so long ago. But no, and then she got us, and we migrated to Canada. We first moved to Rankin Inlet. Cause she was a nurse. She's a nurse. She was a nurse there. So then went through like elementary, middle school, high school, all in Rankin, and then after graduating high school, I moved to Iqaluit, where I took my Bachelor of Science in Nursing at the Nunavut Arctic College.
Okay, so your mom's a nurse, you are a nurse. This is now in the family, and healthcare is a very strong immigration thing for the Philippines.
Yeah.
And so, this is very common to have, Filipino doctors and nurses here in Canada.
Yeah.
As your mom being a nurse, was that something that you, like, from an early age were like, I think I want to follow in mom's footsteps? Or did you want to, like, rebel and do something else?
I was actually that kid who wanted to do it because I always found her work very interesting. She was actually the one telling me, like, you don't have to take nursing. You don't have to do this. Like, I'm not like those other Filipino mothers that will be pushing this on you. So I was the one like, no, I want to be a nurse. That's what I want to do.
Good money. You get to travel. You get to do what you want. There's always work.
Yeah, and like I like it how like now I'm helping out my community because we were always short nurses there, and it's always I find great to have like that retention of nurses that have lived there and know the people. And
know how to say the names properly and stuff.
And just to know how the culture is off the bat.
And how do you feel you fit in or have adapted to the Northern Territories culture?
Because I
can even hear the accent in your voice.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people, when I used to live in Rankin, they would tell me, oh, you have that Rankin accent, and now you have that Iqaluit accent. I find like a lot of Inuit beliefs and values are very similar to Filipino values as well. So that made it really easy for me to just kind of merge, basically.
Just become a part of the family.
Yeah, exactly. And so then all my friends would just teach me all the things that I needed to know. And just being a part of the community, trying to always going to the feasts or taking part in like the springtime festivals.
All the cultural events.
Yeah.
Now, this is going to be a little bit of a reach of a question, but I'm curious. I'm just curious.
Yeah.
As a Filipino or an immigrant, darker skinned immigrant, coming to the territories, which is predominantly not white, this is like still very much indigenous culture of Canada. Did you find any issues with racism or discrimination in terms of being a Filipino going to the Northern Territories?
No, not really.
Because I kind of thought that. Because, as a brown skinned person myself, when I go up into indigenous areas, I feel like almost more comfortable in a way. Like
it was almost like, to me, like they kind of looked like me. So
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
like, oh,
yeah,
I was expecting something totally different, moving to Canada. But it was great because like I didn't feel so different. Because that was like my biggest fear moving. I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna be like the brownest
all
kid
these
there.
tall white people.
I'm gonna
yeah,
be like the brownest kid there, and my Filipino accent's gonna probably shine through so hard, and I'm just gonna get called out for it. I was like, oh God. But no, it was great because it made me feel like, okay, it's
just
all
slid
good.
right in, yeah.
Just like blended right in there with everybody else.
All right, so let's talk about why you're here. So,
Yeah.
We talked about, your life with your mom coming to Canada and nursing, but somehow in this mix of life, you got into baking.
Yeah.
So is this from your mom too? Is this growing up? Is this, I think, like Filipino food is bomb, right? So like, but I don't know if I know that much about Filipino baking.
Yeah,
Right.
so the baking did not come from
Mhm.
like my mom or anything. My mom wasn't like the biggest baker. So we got started like in high school. And like my homeroom teacher at the time was doing the skills club in the high school for hairstyling and baking. And she asked
Okay.
me like, oh, are you interested in joining one or both? See how it is? And I said, not really good with hair. And I don't really have an interest. But baking, that sounds pretty
Yeah,
good.
I like to eat.
I like to eat, and I've like as a young kid though, like I'd watch like the Food Network, and I'd
Mhm.
always be so fascinated with all those chefs and those pastry chefs. Like they'll make such beautiful things,
Yeah.
and then like they're so good. Like all the judges
Yeah.
will be like, "This is delicious," and I was like, "Oh, that's such a
It's like
skill."
art,
Yeah,
right?
it's an art. So like I had a little bit of interest, but I've never really dabbled into it until I joined the skills club, and then since then I like figured out I liked it, and I wanted to keep competing and keep joining the club till I graduated.
So in that process, because like all skills, some people are just naturally good at it. Some people have to work really hard at it. Like I'm a very good cook. I understand spices. You
Mhm.
follow recipes, you don't really understand anything. It isn't until you understand like the chemistry and what's
Yeah.
happening that you can actually build things and invent things and make things yummy. I've never quite figured it out with baking. I can make bread off the top of my head, but that's
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, baking is such like a
It
chemistry.
is. So were you like just naturally good at it right from the beginning, or did you have to?
No. Yeah, I really had to. Oh my god! If you saw what my eclairs used to look like I was looking back at some old pictures because I was mentoring the secondary baking competitor for Team Nunavut this
Mhm.
time around, and I was showing her how I started. Like they're flat. They didn't even rise in the oven. So it took me some time to really like get the techniques and even get the equipment because it
Mhm.
takes some time to really build what you have because it's also very expensive.
Yeah.
So it's just recently that I've really kind of perfected most things.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, in terms of you being up in the territories and getting into the skill, was it early on in this journey that someone said, "Hey, you should think about competing for Skills Canada or Skills Nunavut"? Was there like a mentor that was already pushing you in that direction once they saw that you were good, or how
Yeah.
did you figure that
Yeah,
out?
so it was my homeroom teacher. So she was like my mentor that like got me
Mhm.
started. And it's really nice because our Janice, who's been running Skills Canada and Nunavut for a while,
Mhm.
she's always very supportive and like always encouraging all the youths that take part in Skills Club. Like we'll come to territorials.
Mhm.
And like for our territorial competition, Janice always makes us feel like it's never scary. It was never scary. She was always very like as long as you have fun and you learn something, that's the main thing.
Mhm.
So that always kept me going to wanting to compete and like finally like at first not placing and then going third, second, and finally getting first place. So
So let's walk through that path.
Yeah.
First year, how old are you when you decide that you're going to do your first competition?
This was like 2013. And I placed actually, I remember either third or second that year.
So that's first time trying.
Yeah.
Still in high school or you out of high school?
Still in high school.
Yeah, okay.
So like during all my territorial and competitions, I was like in high school. And then the second time I tried, I won first, got gold, and then that gave me an opportunity to go to like nationals.
Where was nationals?
At the time, it was in Saskatoon.
Yeah, Saskatoon. Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is intense. So like I got.
I was there. That was a good one. It was a fun year.
Yeah, it was great, and I've never been to Saskatoon as well, so it was like a double like
It's a pretty city.
First nationals and first time here. It was perfect.
Yeah.
And that was great. It was still a great experience. It was exhausting. I remember I was telling her name's Tatiana, the girl that I've been mentoring, and I was telling her my feet were hurting.
Just from running around.
Yeah, even though I was like, I wore the shoes that everybody told me to wear, but at the end of the day, I was like, my feet are killing me.
And Daniela, what did we learn about shoes? She bought new shoes for this week because it's a lot of running around.
It's a lot of walking. Yeah.
So like we're gonna be hitting 20,000. I think last time it was 24,000 steps a day, something like that.
I know
like
my watch even picked up on it. It said,
wow, good job.
You're taking more steps than usual. And I was like, yay. Skills the only way that I walk around.
Yeah, once a year.
10,000 steps.
That first year when you got, I think you said second or third, right? When you went to that competition, was there a lot of other people in the baking, or was it like a big group, a small group? Was it tough?
It was a small group.
Okay.
There wasn't a lot of competitors for it, and that kind of is the thing with our territorial competitions. Not that many people. But Janice always tries so that each region is represented in all the categories if possible. So I remember correctly, there was a girl from the Nunavummiut region, and then I was there and another girl from the Iqaluit region, and then they had some from the Baffin region.
Okay, so that made it fun.
Yeah,
so you got to meet other people.
Yeah, exactly, and some of the girls there have competed before me, like a bunch of times before. So like they were giving tips and like after the competition, like, oh, like they'll give constructive feedback, which was great.
And then you compare that to the next year when you're off to Saskatoon and you're at nationals, which is a whole nother game.
Yeah.
What was that like walking in and seeing all the ovens, that huge space, all the competitors from across Canada?
It was overwhelming, to be honest. Like I was like, this is a completely different competition from like how it was. Cause when we were baking, it was in the high school kitchen, like they have the nice ovens too, but not to that extent.
Yeah.
And how like, everybody was wearing their uniforms. It was like the way I described it to my parents, like it's like Top Chef, like with the
times a million.
Yeah, the timer's right there, and it's just like staring down on you. And get your pastry is ready. And I remember just feeling like I had to take numerous like kind of moments, and just deep breaths because it was so different.
And you're watching people around you.
Yeah.
Some of them come from very large cities. Like you're looking at GTA, you're looking at Vancouver.
Yeah.
And they're used to practicing in rooms with 50 people.
Yeah.
Right. And they're used to having to work around huge groups. Whereas perhaps you're not used to having to work around so many people running this way, running that way, people talking, yelling. You know.
I was like, I felt like I was too polite. It's like, excuse me, I'm just gonna grab this, and everybody's just like grabbing. I was like, I think I need to be more aggressive in my approach here.
And how did you do in nationals in 2015 or in Saskatoon that year?
I didn't place, but it was still a really great experience, and like learning like how fast paced everything was, and just even talking to the other competitors after, and like. No, like giving tips and tricks to take home. Because everybody was so nice, and I find like even though it's a competition, you still make a lot of friends and connections for like a long time.
For like life.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it was nice. It was great.
And then you go back home and you say, darn it, I didn't place. Try again next year?
This was about like my I was in grade 11, so
You
it
had
was
1 year left.
yeah, it was getting intense. I do remember like I didn't compete in grade 12 just because of me trying to get ready for nursing school, trying to
Mhm.
get the prerequisites. So I didn't compete anymore after that.
Mhm.
Um, but I still continued on baking for the school and then at home.
So are you at heart still a very, I guess, adept baker?
Yeah, I've
Do you still try to do it like every week or every couple weeks?
well, the last month I was baking like every weekend. Because also we were getting ready for competition, and then I do just like to bake in general, and then my coworkers do appreciate me bringing baked goods. Nurses love their sweets,
Yeah,
so
you need the sugars to get the long shifts, man.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I just bake for fun, and I like giving it away for people to just enjoy and like give feedback as
Mhm.
well.
So what's your specialty? Like if someone says, Amiel, what is the thing that'll get you to Top Chef? What is that? What's that one piece that you're like, I can knock this out of the park every time, and you love watching people's faces be like, oh my God, this is so delicious.
I make it's a Japanese style strawberries and cream cake.
Is it just unreal?
Yeah, I actually when I got back to Iqaluit, a friend of mine ordered for her birthday, so I have to make. So I made that cake like over 5 times last month,
Mhm.
just because people were like, "I didn't get one."
So tell me about it. Tell me about this cake.
So it's a nice chiffon cake. It's like a vanilla cake, and then you soak it with like a sugar, like the syrup.
Mhm.
And then it's very simple. You just make a chantilly cream, so it's like sweetened whipped cream, and then your strawberries.
And like use frozen strawberries or like fresh
No,
strawberries?
fresh
Do
strawberries.
you boil them with sugar or anything to
No,
soften them up?
just the strawberries, the freshness of
Yeah.
the strawberries, and like the cream and like the light airiness and some sweetness from the cake. It's a perfect balance of everything, I find, because I personally too don't like desserts that are too sweet,
Yeah.
or overly loaded with so many
Stuff,
things, because it just kind of masks each. Like you want the flavors to be like to marry and to work in harmony with
Yeah.
each other. So
What about chocolate? Do you like chocolate? Are you a fan of chocolate?
I do, but not like I like dark chocolate. Like my sweetness level. Yeah, milk chocolate's okay, but it's not something I go
Hate all
for
of
right
it,
away. Yeah.
I love chocolate. Like, I love chocolate. No, I'm not gonna discriminate against any chocolate out there. So, and to all the chocolates that are watching, I love you all.
You're all good.
You're all good. I love you all.
Equally.
But I do like dark chocolates better, and I'm not on team white chocolate. I got taught by a baker a long time ago that white chocolate isn't a thing. It's actually a white confection that's
Yeah.
made to taste like chocolate, and that kind of killed it for me. I'm like, then it's not really chocolate. Then I don't like it anymore. You're off team chocolate. Yeah.
You're not in team chocolate anymore.
Yeah. You're team whatever you are. So now in this role, you're back. You're a nurse now.
Yeah.
You're making money in nursing. You don't need to be a part of any of this. You're happy making your life up in the snowy, north right now. But here you are. What happened?
Well, like after working through the pandemic, so I work as a public health nurse, and during the pandemic, it was a lot of case management and doing the COVID test, giving the COVID vaccines, and I was getting really burnt out from all of that after like the 2 years. So then a lot of my friends were saying maybe you should, because I was so stressed out, and they said that maybe you should start doing baking again and just kind of doing that as your self-care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then I started doing that, and like on the weekends, and it did make me feel really good. So, and then as of recently, I learned that they were having a territorial competition like about a month ago. So then I was like, maybe I should reconnect with like my skills family. And so I did, and Janice emailed me back right away. I was like, yes, of course. Because at first I was like, I'd like to volunteer either like as a judge for baking or whatever you need me to do over there. I just want to be a part of it. And she's like, yes, of course, we'll take you. And I was like so happy.
Did you think there was going to be a lag time in there between like, oh, maybe they got to find a place for you? Like when you initially reached out, and then Janice was like, no, you're coming back.
Well, I was thinking like as a judge, like, oh, maybe like I don't have that much experience. Like I'm like I said, like I'm a nurse. Like I don't really bake. I'm not a pastry chef or anything.
Yeah.
But no, Janice was like, oh, like you're an alumni. You took part. Like we'll take you any chance. We and then she was telling me how they're so happy that like more and more of their alumni are reaching out again and touching base. And I think that's so important to really boost skills in Nunavut because it's not as big as, with sports and all of that. And I do want to see it get to the point where it's as big as, going to the Arctic Winter Games or things like that,
Well represented. Like that, people come up for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you made a comment earlier that I found was interesting when you were talking about, the people that compete and all the competitors. You've used the term girls a few times.
Yeah.
Right. And I find that very interesting because I work in a very male-dominated industry, and I got to make sure that I don't say the guys. I get in trouble all the time. I'm like, guys, because it's just such a habit because most of the people I've worked with in my life have been guys. Now, do you find from the other side in the baking world, pastry chef world, is it mainly women?
No, I think I just use that because like all the people I've competed with were girls. But like in the other realm, like in cooking, there have been guys there as well. I just haven't seen any. I've never competed with any guy.
Yeah.
But I know.
I wonder where that is because I know in the past it was like chefs could be like there's lots of men chefs, but in the baking world, I don't know if it's seen as a female or a male or it's just equal. I don't know.
I think it's equal, like especially nowadays, like everybody like an equal representation in all of the areas, like cooking, baking, what have you.
Yeah.
And I think that's great because
welding needs to be more like that. Really does. Now, what about the Filipino side of it? Is there any Filipino baking magic that you can make happen?
No, not yet. But I'm trying to make pandesal.
Okay.
Like,
is that the milk one?
It's like a little bun, and then when it's baked, it's rolled into some breadcrumbs, and it's really good when it's hot out of the oven. But like bread,
I can see your eyes glazing over just thinking about it.
Like bread is something like I was never really good at. Like that's like my goal over the summer is to really hone down on the bread making.
See, I can make bread fantastic. It's like I can feel when the dough's right.
Yeah, see, I want to get to that point.
Yeah.
I'm like that with like cakes and other pastries.
Yeah.
And like, your preferred rolls and your eclairs and the tarts. But with bread, it scares me a bit.
Yeah, and it's so funny because I grew up making bread. In South America, we have a thing called pan amasado.
Yeah,
and it's like really simple, but if you don't make it right, it doesn't taste right.
No,
even though it's only like 5 ingredients, but you got to do it in the right order, at the right time, the right temperature.
Yeah, temperature is key.
Key for that, like because we're using lard, and so you got to get that lard to set well with the flour before you add the water. Like, there's just these little things, right?
Yes, and that's like because for this year's competition, the baking competitors, they need to make conchas.
Okay. Yeah.
So I love eating conchas.
Yeah.
But so I was teaching my baking student, okay, like we gotta make sure that the dough is rising good, and like I've made conchas a few times before, but they were never the same as when I'd buy them. But I was so impressed with Tatiana because she nailed it. Like, you have the skill. They were so
you have the magic.
You have the bread magic. And I ate so much of her conchas when we were practicing. It's like, this is great. I love this.
And so then, you reach out to Janice. Janice says, yeah, you can come in, do some volunteering and judging. But you went further. Like, now what are you doing with Skills? So
I was mentoring Tatiana just to get her ready for a competition. So right now I'm part of the alumni group. So there's some meetings for this week, and I've never met the group before. This is my first time. So it's going to be really nice to put the faces on the names and just get to know everybody and see what the week brings. You guys have a thing tonight, don't you? A supper or something tonight? Yeah, there's like the welcome dinner. Yeah, we're going to be seeing everybody tonight. So yeah. So everybody's going to be here. So I'm excited to see what the week brings and kind of figure out what I have to do after that because everything's so new. So I'm still kind of navigating my way through.
Well, it's good because, when we initially started this project with Skills Canada to do the podcast, there was some blanks in the sheet, and it's like, oh, there's no one from up north. It's like, oh, that's a bummer. So then at the last minute, it's like, oh, we got someone from up north. It's like, okay, we got to find time to get them on the show. So, it's good. And you're the first one of the week for us.
Awesome.
And this week's going to be madness. So
Yeah.
this is probably the best sounding I'm going to sound all week. After this, it's just
Gonna go
downhill
down.
because it's just blah, 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 right? So now what are you hoping to gain this week? So 2 questions, I guess. What are you looking to gain this week from your team, the people that you're mentoring? What are you hoping for them? And then what are you hoping to gain for yourself, like even professionally with coming out here?
So for my team members, I'm hoping that, of course, first one, like the main important thing I've been telling everybody is like just to have fun and just bask in the experience and like the moment. I know like if with the things that they have to get done, it can get really stressful, but the fact that they made it here to nationals,
huge.
it's a big deal. It's great. Like you're representing Nunavut and all the Nunavummiut in this competition. So just to enjoy their time and that they make friends that they can reconnect with in the long run, especially too if they pursue this career path. And it's a great way to make those early connections.
Networking is key.
Yeah. And then as for myself, what I want to learn is, how I can continue being a supportive system as an alumni and how like from the other alumni and like any what do you call this?
Advice,
tips and tricks on how to kind of get that going up in like the north, like in Nunavut, because people have tried before to really set up like an alumni group for Nunavut skills.
It didn't really take off.
Yeah, it didn't really take off that well. So maybe something like this year, there could be a change, and it does.
Yeah.
But so I'm really looking forward to learning how the other people were able to kind of kickstart.
Usually, it just takes a strong 1 or 2 people to really get something off the ground, and then as you add more people, it takes the weight off of those leaders. But and I'm sure because I've talked to all of them, and for years I know some of the people on the NAC for a few years now, and I've seen them kind of start as competitors and work their way up. I used to be a mentor for Welding, so I worked with my competitor. So I've been in skills probably over 10 years now in one way or another. And you see these people mature and then become the leaders, and now I'm interviewing them, and they're wonderful, but they've always had like to either be the leader or they had a leader near them that they could like support, right? So hopefully you guys can do that. Hopefully you're that leader. I think you could do it.
Yeah, I hope so too. And I am close friends with a lot of the other alumni, so definitely something that's already being worked on. It just needs a little bit more of a push to really get it going.
Cool. And how do you think they're going to place? Tell me the truth. Your competitors. First for baking. Come on.
I'm hoping. I told her no pressure. I said just enjoy your time, but it'd be nice to get placed. Like I didn't tell her that straight directly. I don't want to stress her out anymore. But I'm hoping at least place because I don't know if we've ever placed for baking.
Like on the podium. Yeah.
I know for the other programs like they've had Nunavut, the Nunavut flag raised.
Yeah. Out in Vancouver, I saw a couple Nunavuts win. Yeah.
So hopefully for baking.
And what happens to all the baking when you guys are done? Do we get to eat it? Like, do we?
When I competed, I don't even know. I think the judges just took the trays like afterwards, and I don't know where it went after there. I guess I think the public.
Like, let's hope they're not getting thrown away. Like
I don't think so. I think they ate it and gave some away.
Okay, because I'm down to try. I am down to try whatever.
I know. I'll be going down there.
Well, if you see me and you can get some, just like.
Yeah, just like under the table.
I'll even like slide a 20 and be like.
I'll definitely do that.
All right, Amiel. Well, this has been awesome. I just got a couple questions to just wrap up the conversation. Okay. The first question is about, if you compare your start, like your grade 9, grade 10, you're getting into this baking class and you're just learning the skill to today when you're mentoring and working with the NAC. What was some of the skills that you had to learn? Like you had to learn in order for this to be a thing. for you to be a success, what were some of the skills that you really had to take on?
Well, I really had to get used to measuring the ingredients because that makes we were saying baking is so precise. So with measuring your ingredients, that just made it easier for me to really get a good product in everything that I made.
Mm-hmm.
And also I did a lot of practicing with making different types of buttercream and perfecting that. And for the piping of flours, I took some time to after the fact, even skills, just playing around and
Honing in a few
yeah.
things. Yeah.
And that's majority of it is just the technical aspects of baking, and then just practicing different designs. I now, before I decorate a cake, I draw it out first, and it helps me just kind of put my vision on paper. And then once I put it on the cake, it's kind of the final piece.
It makes more sense.
Yeah, exactly. So those are the things I would have told my younger self. Also don't open the oven when things are.
That's what the light is for.
That's what I used to do when I first started. Every time I'd open the oven, and at that point in time too, we were making profiteroles or the cream puffs, and you're not supposed to open the oven.
There's two things you got to learn in life. Don't open the oven when there's something in there. It's when I'm making my bread in the open, then I lose all my moisture. It just changes the whole dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And don't ever open the pot of rice till the rice is done. Never check. I can't understand why. What are you making? Rice. The first thing I want to do is take the lid off. No, don't do that.
And another thing that I learned is that it's okay to experiment with flavors. You don't have to stick with what the recipe says. You can always make it your own.
Try something else.
Yeah, and cause that's how you learn.
Yeah.
It's if you make a mistake or it doesn't taste good, then you know not to do that again. So
perfect. All right, and the last question is, if you can go to the time machine now, back to being 12 years old, what piece of advice would you give yourself in terms of in general life skills? What would you say, Amiel? The next 10 years of your life, you're going to be competing, you're going to be traveling, you're doing these things. Give yourself some advice.
I would say don't hesitate to try new things. And even if things are scary, everything will work out in the end. Because that was the thing that I almost didn't join or go to competition because I was mortified of how people would perceive my perception of myself and my skills. And I'd remind myself it doesn't matter. Everybody's at a different point, and that's always fine.
And everyone's scared.
Yeah.
Everyone is.
Everyone's scared. So just always take the leap and just go for it, because the opportunity is always, it's not always going to be there. So
I wish all the competitors knew how scared the judges were. The first year I judged, I learned that, and it really changed my perspective. And it's all the judges are scared too, because they don't want to make a mistake. They don't want to ruin some kid's dream for no reason. So there's a lot of pressure when you're judging to do it properly. And when I realized how scared the judges were, the mentors are, the organizers, it's okay, you know what? Everyone in the damn building's scared.
Yeah, the whole building's shaking.
So just roll with it, man. Everyone's on the same page.
Yeah.
All right, Amiel. Well, thank you very much for coming on to our show.
Thank you for having me.
Any shout outs to anybody? You want to say hi to anybody?
I want to say hi to the team Nunavut. They're probably going to be listening to this. And to my boyfriend, Isaac.
Oh.
Up in the north.
Awesome. Hi, Isaac. So, thank you very much for taking the time. And I hope your team does very well and everything goes the way you want it to.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much.
You bet. And for all the people that have been following along, make sure you check out all the episodes where we're releasing them in parts. We have 3 sections going out with podcasts over a series of time. I think we're all slated for the month of June. So, make sure you check them all out. And also keep watching, downloading, sharing them, and commenting on them. We're not getting enough comments in the comment sections. We want to know what you think. Tell us what you like. And if you have any suggestions or even people that you think would be great on the show, let us know. But with that, we're going to wrap it up until the next episode of the CWB Association podcast with the Skills NAC here in Winnipeg, Manitoba. Stay tuned.
We hope you enjoyed the show.